that's the way we can interact for this year. But I say that I really had the pleasure to visit your school in Hanoi and in Ho Chi Minh 2 years ago, and I was really happy to work inside your institution. So I expect as well to be a very interesting discussion and group. So as I introduced, this year we split the course between 2 professors. So let me go, briefly on the basic ideas to work together. So first of all, I have a slide just to remind you the key elements to improve, as much as possible our interaction in this virtual world. So, I am in my apartment in Paris. You just saw the picture of our school in La Défense. We have some French students from different school in France, mostly in Paris, I suppose, but maybe in other location in France and Vietnam. So it will be a French-Vietnamese mixed discussion in every group, because as I already explained, in every group there will be only 1 or maximum 2 French students, so you can interact with this international perspective. So when I'm speaking, I managed to have on my big screen some small picture of people who are online, so maybe like 12 faces I can see, and I don't know what the random order will change, but of course when you speak, remember to unmute. If you can keep mute when, of course, there is someone speaking, it would be reduce the background noise. Of course, if you remind to open your webcam so we can see your face, is nice. But even if you don't open your cam, if you can put a picture, at least we can see who is speaking. It will help us to recreate this kind of virtual interaction into a virtual classroom. What is very important when we do teamwork, you will be in your group, and you know that in MS Teams there are this chat for the group. So there will be 14 groups, and please, to interact in your group, write in the chat, because when you work in your team, I will be able to see all the chat and I will be able to answer your questions. So please keep all the conversation in English. Otherwise, someone will not be able to follow, especially me if you write in Vietnamese. And so let's keep this as a good rule for interaction in English all the time, especially when you write, obviously, because when you write in the chat, I can see and I can reply, and so we can interact. And of course, any other ideas, I'm happy to learn as well how to improve. Today I was spending some time with a special app that has been added to Teams, which is called Poll Everywhere. It did not really work very well, so I will show you how to do this on a website, or you can do it on the phone at some point. So that's the quick introduction on the online environment. I want to explain the logic of the course, covering all the 10 sessions. And so it's split in 2 parts. The first part, it will be with me, and it's about 5 sessions. The 5 sessions are split in 4 sessions, including today, where we talk about what I call 4 key questions around CSR and sustainability, as you see here from the syllabus, which is already uploaded in the material. So I summarized this question in what is it, why company engage in CSR and sustainability, what kind of approaches they choose, and we will talk about different models of CSR, strategic, responsive. We will use some framework to discuss this. We will talk about a very key concept, which is materiality, which is the idea that to identify and prioritize CSR sustainability issue, there must be a very solid systematic approach, and you will learn what are the key elements of this approach. And finally, the question is like an overall opinion of your group, which is, all things considered, answering this initial 4 questions, what is your overall opinion of your company? What we will do at the end of this class, you will select one company. Every group will, let's say, adopt your baby. You will adopt a company, and you will analyze this company through this question, both in this 4-part with me, and in class 5, basically, you present. So everything you do will be teamwork finalized to prepare a final presentation in class 5, which is on the 10th, so next week, next Monday. And I will explain how we will do this step by step. And then in the second part, you have a similar structure with Rodrigo. Rodrigo Kambayashi is my colleague at IESEG. and he's a very interesting, he's younger than me, but he has an interesting and mixed background. He's a Mexican Japanese, teaching in English in France, so you can imagine how intercultural background he has, and he's also an entrepreneur. So he has a very interesting approach to CSR and entrepreneurship, which is his core teaching in IESEG. And this is additional question that you will investigate with him, and looking at what your company is doing. And again, you will present in the final class, which is the 10th class on the Saturday, 20th of April, your own group analysis. Okay, so that's the idea of the course. So there will be the first part of the class talking about some framework. You see, for every class, we put one key learning with one key idea. And then we will give you time after a break to work in your group. And then my role will be more or less to coach. So I will try to move either by replying to your chat or even joining your group to discuss a particular question. Of course, because we have 14 groups, I will not be able to go to every group every evening, but we will organize this. And so maybe one evening I go to 7 group, and the next evening I go to the next 7. So in order to be able to spend time with every one of you. Okay, so that's the idea of the seminar. We will talk about CSR and sustainability, and you will analyze what companies are doing. But of course, we are not just describing what companies are doing. We are trying to understand why they do it, what else they should be doing, how they do it, and what kind of issue basically they choose, and again what issue they should do better. So what we aim, as we will see in the learning goals, is really to give you some framework to analyze what companies are doing, and maybe to become a consultant in your project, because we want you to give some recommendation and some tools that will make you able to analyze and criticize what the company are doing, and give some assessment in terms of weakness and strengths of the company are doing. So of course, please feel free to interrupt for question at any time. You can also write in the chat, but the most safe way to interrupt me, of course, is to speak so I can hear you. Okay, so that's the plan for tonight. As I said, tonight basically is rich. There is a lot of ideas that I want you to touch today, and it's a bit of an introduction as well, of course, in the way we work together, as I already started to explain. So after talking about the course structure, which is already explained, I want to just brief touch on the learning goals, and I tell you a little bit of who I am, my research focus, and I would like to ask you your expectations. So we will do a first breakout room, just 10 minutes for you to discuss with your team and see what kind of question and expectation you want to write. Basically, I will ask you to write 3 questions that I can collect, and then I will maybe tailor a little bit more for the next classes what we are going to do, how we are going to respond to your expectations. Then there is the key reading for tonight, which is Freeman 2017. Is an article by the most important business ethics stakeholder theory scholar in the world, probably, and he has produced so many articles. I mean, this one I like very much. He talks about the problem with the dominant story about business, and that's basically what we will see: 3 problems or 3 flaws that people use or commit talking about business, and we are saying this for managers, for management scholars, and even for business school professors. So it's a bit a critical approach, trying to point out a change of mindset, a change of the way we think about business. And of course, I think this is very important, talking to corporate social responsibility and sustainability, to step back and ask ourselves, what is a company and what is the goal, the purpose of a corporation? And then we can talk about what is responsibility and what does it mean to be social responsible and sustainable. So I will go, briefly through these 3 ideas that you have in the article, and I will do with you a little experiment. So with this website, Paul Everywhere, we will do a what is called the ultimatum game. So just a quick experiment that points out one of these elements. And I will show you at Freeman speak in 3 minutes about the key ideas of stakeholder theory. So after we finish this part, I want to start talking about CSR and sustainability. So we will talk about definitions. Again, I want you to think in your group about saint and sinner. So another question for you, just to start the discussion in your group about companies and about what you know about company behavior, or let's say company performance in sustainability. And then I want to touch about this question, why it's important, why CSR sustainability is important. And yes, and oh, I put twice the same thing. So the brainstorming, sorry, it's basically at the end of this session where you will think about some company. So let's see, about the time. I'm not totally sure today. It depends on the discussion that we invest. So maybe the teamwork will be maybe shorter, but really today's teamwork is really to select a company. So we will, I will ask you in your group to think about companies that you are interested in your group to work on. And it could also be a company that some of you is working at this moment. But, so in this case, the person who is working in the company can be actually interview or the person who can provide an inside perspective for the other team members. And I will ask you to avoid the usual suspect. I will give you some names and some company that we will use as example during the course. So obviously, it will be interesting to analyze a company that is neither at the best in class or the world leader in sustainability, or is not the worst one, but more a company with good and bad aspects, so you can criticize, you can suggest some improvement areas. So at the end of today, basically, I would like to have every group with one company, which we need to agree and focus on a few sectors. Here are some of the sectors that I have identified, and I will show you this correspond to some international document by some research inside the UN DGs, so the UN Development Sustainability Goals, because you can use this document to see some particular sustainability issue inside those sectors. And so we will try to maybe select at least 2 companies in the same sector, so or company regrouped in this kind of same sector. So when we do the group presentation, we can organize the presentation in a way that makes more sense for people listening to compare similar issue in similar industry. That's most interesting. Okay, I think that's enough for explaining what's going to happen today. So let's start. And of course, all the slides that you see will be uploaded after class, because of course I will try to integrate in the slide your exercise, your answer, your questions. So you will see I will upload after every class, integrating your work. So learning goals, and I put like 3 key ideas here. So of course it's about CSR sustainability ideas, concept, and tools. So what does it mean to become more responsible? What does it mean to make decisions in companies thinking about CSR and sustainability? Display your critical understanding, as I said, some key ideas that can help you to analyze what companies are already doing and how good they are doing. Because of course, this is a topic that, as you know, every company is talking about, but really we need to have some framework in order to analyze what is the quality of the CSR sustainability programs, initiatives, overall strategy. And at the end, I think we will try to focus really on the overall strategy of corporation. That's, again, the most important question, the level of analysis. And so you will prepare this group report. I mean, I talk about a group report, which is basically the slide that you will present in your group presentation. And in this slide, you will put your in-depth analysis of one particular company and its performance. So how we work together, as I said, in the first part of the class, I will talk about this reading key ideas, some framework, some research materials that will give you some tools for you to analyze, and that's the teamwork time. So everything that you need to do for the presentation basically should happen in the second part of class, so you don't have to do much extra work. Of course, there will be some days before the presentation, so you will have time to prepare, to finalize your research. But I want to use really the teamwork in every second part of class in order to help you, to coach you. So it's basically considering that we are a group of researchers. Every team is a research team, and I want to be here to help you to do the best research possible based on the information that we can collect, that you can find. So I really help you to find and select the information. That's my role. And finally, of course, you have to present, and basically the only important thing is to remember that the deadline will be like 24 hours before class, okay? So I can, again, check the presentation, see the files are working, and split the company in the sectors in the order of presentation. So as you can see from the syllabus, there are two parts and they're very symmetrical, and we design in a way that is very similar. So it is one course, of course, but just we put a first presentation at the end of the first 5 sessions. So in session 5, with me, you present your work, and then you keep working on the same company, but with Rodrigo, who of course will be aware of the company from tomorrow, basically, and he will also be aware of what you're doing with me. And then you continue adding question and analysis to the company, and you present the second part of the research in the final presentation in class 10. Let me know if it's all clear. If you really have some question, please. That's really just from the syllabus, okay? Is someone trying to speak? Or it's okay? Okay, if you want to speak, remember to unmute, because I see some signals, but I don't hear any voice. Okay, so I go on. And I want to briefly introduce myself, and then I wanted to ask you this first brainstorming in your group to see whether you have particular question that you want to be addressed, also in light of what I just presented in the experience I want to transfer to you in this kind of analysis for the company. So as you can see, I've been working in this field for quite a long time, because 25 years in sustainability is more or less, you will see from the people I will mention, at the end of the 90s, really, there was the first boom of tools, standards for sustainability reporting, and that's more or less, I naturally was, finishing my school, my studies in political science, in business ethics, and then I was starting as a researcher from the UN Research Institute of Social Development, and I was working with different universities on this field of developing initiatives and standards. Then for a short time, I was in London in this KPMG, so in a very large professional consulting company, talking about really how to help companies to write a social, at the time it was social environmental report. And then I went back to university, to academia, and I did my PhD a bit later, and I studied with Ed Freeman. So disclaimer, of course, I am one of the people working with Ed Freeman on stakeholder theory, and that's the kind of theory we will discuss today, which I think is very important as a basis to talk about companies and responsibility. So I've been then spending some time in Italy, then back in academia in Ireland, and from the last 6 years I've been working in business ethics and CSR and sustainability in Paris at the ESEG. In the meantime, I started working with other companies, with other university, first in Germany, and since 2019, as you can see from with this nice collaboration with your institution in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh. One of the person who I was lucky to meet and work with for a while in my time in London is Simon Zadek. You will read with Rodrigo one important article of Simon Zadek talking about the learning stage of our organization. And Simon Zadek was the founder of this Institute of Social and Ethical Accountability in London at the end of the 90s, who launched the first standard for for sustainability reporting. It was social and ethical accounting, audit and reporting, the first way of talking about this topic, and now it's called sustainability reporting. And so we will discuss some of this idea, because this one was really the first initiative putting together many people working in this field from different countries using different methodologies. And still you will find today in some of the report of the companies some reference to the standard, especially when we talk about stakeholder engagement and we talk about materiality, that refer to this international standard, A1000. In terms of research, here are some of the paper or the, of the research that has done. And again, I want to show you just, talking about the title of this paper, the logic of critical, being someone that, it has been working in this field to develop standard, to help companies to report, to create sustainability reports, but then, asking with a critical perspective, are these management standards effective? Are they really useful to help companies to improve? And this is the key question still there today, as you will see from other people I will show you today, key sustainability thought leader in the world. And something that you will discuss as well with Rodrigo, there's so many standards. And for a manager, it's important to try to understand what can this standard do, what is the benefit, and what are maybe the limitation, as I was discussing in this paper, what are the limitations of CSR standard. We talk about a paradox. Company adopt many standards, but at some point, they just produce more report, more information, but they don't really improve the sustainability performance. And that is a problem. And then, of course, I want to talk about this issue that is something we will discuss today about the flow of the dominant story of business. Business is human being working together. And so when we talk about management and being a good manager, being an effective manager, being a good leader, it's important that we keep in mind the human dimension of business, the human dimension of management. And therefore, when we look at, how can we form, or help people making decisions in business, in management, the creative arts like theater that we discussed in the article can be an important source for moral imagination and for, working together in a way that we say here, practice human dignity, respect well-being at work, and other dimension of, again, working together that are very important for people working in a corporation. And again, when we talk about responsibility, of course, we have to think about this dimension of working together in a responsible way. So enough from my side. I would like really to ask yourself to share a few ideas in your group in terms of what you expect from this course, whether you have any particular interest or topic that you want to discuss, linked to CSR sustainability for your professional or personal experience. So my idea was to ask you to go in your group now and talk with your group member. You should be around 7 people on average, 6, 7, I think, in your group. And if you can, discuss for 5 minutes and then write 3 ideas or 3 questions in the chat. So, first, discuss some drafts and then select 3, up to 3. And then I will look and I will collect them. So we make a slide that everyone can see later on. Okay. So now we should ask you to go to your room, which means, I don't remember, I have to open the rooms, I guess. Let me see. The rooms are there. I guess you can go to your group, right? Or do I need to do something? I'm not sure.
We can go to the group, sir.
Okay, so you know exactly which group you are, right? You got
yeah.
Okay, so very good. So please, let's spend 10 minutes. So like 10 past 1 in Ferris and 10 past 7, right? 10 past, let's come back to the main group, please. Very good. So I see already some people in the group. Great. there is a file, if you don't know, on the canvas with all the group membership. Okay, I see a lot of good questions already. Of course, people are discussing, and I'm not sure. Let's say we go until two more minutes, okay? Let's say so to every group. Okay, one more minute, and then I will try to see all the questions. I have a question for you. Okay, here I write in the general. And here I write in the chat. If I write here, it goes there. It's very weird. Okay, guys, I would like to ask everyone, very good. So please don't write here, but write this good summary, 1, 2, 3 point of every group in the chat, group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So then I go to the groups and I can copy paste and everything. I will have a slide that we can share, I don't know, at the end of today or tomorrow, probably, where we can see the expectation, okay? So now please stop discussing this, because of course I see already a lot of questions which are really good, and let's try to move on, and maybe I will start answering some of your questions, but we will see. So let's start talking about CSR, and let's talk about this key idea of the 3 flows of the dominant story of business. So the article by Freeman. So please focus now on the ideas, and stop writing, otherwise it's distracting, we get noises, you know. Okay, so guys, there are 3 ideas here, and the first one is the problem of thinking of business in these terms. Business is just about the money. The typical short version. I'm sorry? Who is trying to speak? Can you hear me? Can you see the slide with the flow number 1?
Yes, Professor.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So I guess it was a mistake. I continue. Huh? So the first problem or the first flaw about the company, the way we have in business to talk about business school or managers talk about business is really that business is just about the money. And this goes back to this very famous article by Milton Friedman that is like a milestone in the history of not just business, but if you talk about CSR and the way we talk about CSR today is still influenced by this idea. So the title of this article was basically a thesis, and that the social responsibility of business is to maximize profit. So I want to show you here the key argument of this article, or the key step of the reasoning that Milton Friedman point out in this article. And the first argument that he was making is that CSR is a misleading concept because it's talking about corporate social responsibility. It's a mistake. It's bad language. He was saying that business cannot have responsibility. Only human beings are responsible. The schools, the building don't have responsibility. Is the people who design the building who are responsible for safety and for the quality of the building, for example. So we have to look at human being, because to be responsible means there is an intentional action. And people who are responsible in the corporation, of course, are the people making decisions, the managers. And the second element of this analysis is who are the managers of the corporation. And here we are looking at the big corporation, at the modern corporation, where we have the famous approach of the principal agent in economic terms, the separation between ownership and control. The owners being the principal, and the people who control the company are the agents of the principal. The manager don't own the company. The manager are there to make decisions. So managers typically are people who study, like you do an MBA, and then you have the best preparation to become a successful manager. But the manager is not the owner of the company. The company is owned by the shareholders. And therefore, there is a relationship which is, the agents are appointed, are not elected. The agents are people who work basically for the shareholders. They are employees. And if we recognize this relationship, it means that you as an agent, you have to do what your principal asks you to do. It's a contractual relationship. It's also a fiduciary relationship. You are there because someone nominated you to run their own corporation. And of course, what the principal want, the shareholders want a return on their investment. And so that's why that's the only thing that is important and is ethical to do, because you have a fiduciary duty to your shareholders. If you do something else, Friedman, as an economist, say you are imposing a taxation without representation, and is against. He was writing very critically about CSR, because if CSR is something that you do against the maximization of profit, you are basically, he calls CSR a subversive doctrine. It's something which is against the basic of capitalism. So the only social responsibility, the only right thing that you should do as a manager is to maximize profit. Now, there are two very important elements here. So first of all is that when we read this sentence, sometimes we misunderstand, and people misunderstand Friedman because they quote only this part of the sentence. But in the article, it's not that he says you have to maximize profit no matter what, at any condition, because that would be really misinterpretation of Milton Friedman. If you read the article, the sentence goes on. Yes, you have to maximize profit. You have to engage, in activities and resources that increase profit, but as long as it stays within the rules of the game, which is to say, engages in open and free competition without deception or fraud. So Friedman, wrote in his article that yes, the manager should maximize profit, but he has to do it by respecting some basic ethical values, because free competition, open competition, no deception, no fraud are ethical elements, which is one of the key points I want you to keep from today's class. There is always ethics in business. We cannot separate ethics from business decision. Even from the Milton Friedman shareholder maximization approach, there is no way to run a business and there is no way to create a capitalistic system without some basic ethical values. So the rule of the game, basically it means respecting the legislation, the norms, maybe the standards, but no deception is a very strong ethical principle. So if you hear Friedman is the free market libertarian where there is only business and there is no ethics, it's just someone who did not read the real article. Your misunderstanding is a big misunderstanding. Friedman says there are some basic ethical principles without which there is no business, there is no capitalistic system. Maybe these are too narrow or too limited, but there is ethics in business. That's the first point that I want you to keep. Now, what is the point that Friedman is making here against this idea? So what is the problem? The problem is that if we only assume that the goal of business is to maximize profit, we reduce business to a kind of Darwinian we risk, at least, to accept this idea that business is just about the money. Like in this famous movie, you have the famous speech by Michael Douglas explaining this. Oops, sorry, I just spoiled the movie. It's only 30 seconds.
I am not a destroyer of companies. I am a liberator of them. The point is, ladies and gentlemen, that greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works. Greed clarifies, cuts through, and captures the essence of the evolutionary spirit. Greed in all of its forms. Greed for life, for money, for love, knowledge, has marked the upward surge of mankind, and greed, you mark my words, will not only save Teldar paper, but that other malfunctioning corporation called the USA. Thank you very much.
So that's more or less is the slogan of this vision that only profit and only shareholder matters. Is that true? And what are the problems of this vision? Before we go to stakeholder theory, I want to show you some research from another angle, from actually a corporate lawyer here, Lynn Stout, who says the same thing and criticizes this approach from a legal perspective. And in this book, which is called The Shareholder Value Myth, she explained that this idea that managers have to maximize shareholder value is both incoherent, it doesn't make sense from a legal perspective, and what is most interesting for us as a MBA student, as a business scholar, and as a future manager entrepreneur, is actually counterproductive. Is a counterproductive business objective, which really says that if you try to maximize shareholder value, you will at the end harm, as you say here, investors. You will do things that do not achieve your goal. They are counterproductive. And here I want to show you her argumentation, which exactly goes back to the 3 points that we saw from the Friedman article, to the logic that we just saw. These are the three elements, and she says these 3 elements all of them are flawed. They're wrong. And she said, starting from the first one, it's wrong to say that shareholders own the corporation. From a legal point of view, corporations are independent legal entities. Corporations, in other words, own themselves. If you are a shareholder, you own shares. You don't own the corporation. In the book, she makes the example. If you have the share of Apple, you cannot go to the Apple store and pick up a few new iPhones. You don't own Apple. You don't own the asset of the company. You own shares, and this gives you some rights, but, and that's the second point, you don't have the right, for example, to say, hey, give me the profit at the end of the year. The shareholders are entitled to profit, but they actually are only entitled to have the profit when the board decides to distribute the dividends. So it's the board of the company who decides every year whether they distribute dividend if they have profit or not. They might say this year we want to invest in a new research and development facilities. We need to hire new people. We need to, we bought a new company in another country, so we don't give any profit. So again, it's not an immediate right from the shareholders. And the last point is also very important, and is very misleading, or a misleading reading of the legal prerequisite of managers. The managers are legally not bound to the shareholders. The managers don't have a fiduciary duty to the shareholders. They have a fiduciary duty to the corporation. And that's very, very important, because that's what break this one stakeholder relationship, only manager to shareholders. You have to think at the company, which actually means you have to think at the other stakeholders who are important for the corporation. So it's very interesting, because from this book, from a legal examination of what the jurisprudence, I mean the decision made in courts in the US, basically, historically, they show that all these three assumptions of the Friedman model are wrong, and you would not pass an exam in a law school in the US if you say those things. So the conclusion of her analysis is that from a legal perspective, to maximize shareholder value is a very dangerous idea. It's an idea that causes people, managers, to focus very myopically on short term, and this can be at the expenses of long-term performance, investment, research, and cause responsible behavior. You can do many things that tomorrow increase the profit, and at the same time destroy value for the company, harm people, employees, customer, community, and at the end harm the welfare not only of external stakeholders, but for investors alike. That's why it's counterproductive. You will not achieve the goal if you only focus on shareholder. Now let's move on one other point, and then we take probably a short break, because I have another exercise for you. So the second flow is linked to the first one, so let's do this as well. And so if the first one is corporation is just about the money, the second flow is manager should only take care of the interest of the shareholders. Only shareholder matters. And that was also, and maybe still is, even if I will show you, there's some very good news that really from the business world challenged this idea and basically destroyed this point of view. But even if you look at the history of corporation, you hear many times managers, CEOs who say, I have to maximize shareholder value. That's everything I do, and that's my duty. And that's a mistake. And this is, for example, what we hear, and that's not a movie. You will see you will hear the hearing of this guy who was the CEO of Enron, and Enron was one of the largest scandals in U.S. history. Is this energy company who, in the year 2000, was the seventh largest corporation in the U.S. And what they were doing, basically, they were pleasing their shareholders by what they call, creative accounting. They were basically put in their account future earnings that were very hypothetical and not real. And by do so, they were basically putting a drag in the market, and the analyst, nobody, the rating company, nobody was really checking, nobody was doing their job. They were all part of this illusion or collusion, probably, to the point that someone discovered the cheat, the fraud. It was really a fraud, and then the company went bankrupt, and the share price from $90 was basically nothing, 20 cents, and this harmed many people, not just destroy the company, of course, but destroy the pension of many thousands of people who invested and who had the pension scheme in the company. And this is what this guy said, the CEO of Enron said.
Here today, I do not believe I did not do anything wrong. That was not in the interest, all the time I worked for Enron Corporation, that was in the interest of the shareholders of the company.
You see, that was his defense. All I did was in the interest of the shareholders. And the courts say, you go to jail. That's not what you should do. You should protect the company. And they destroy the company. And with the company, they harm many people, including the investor. So he was sentenced 24 years to jail. So the good news is that people from the business world, and you see an interesting article from 2017 here, Harvard Business Review, they're saying that this idea that only shareholder matter is wrong, and the board people, and then here we talk about governance. Now, governance is a very important discussion linked to CSR, because it's one aspect of CSR is also the good governance of the company, which means, you know, too much focus on shareholders. Huh? Is this a problem? The short answer is yes. If you only focus on shareholders, then, you know, you're not doing what is good for the company. Then you risk to make decisions that can actually harm the company. And the big news came 2 years ago. So in summer, on the August 19, 2019, we had this news. Huh? Look at the top title of Financial Times, BBC News. You have group of US corporate leader ditches shareholder first mantra, corporate leader scrap shareholder first ideology. So look at the word, mantra, ideology. So here it's like we wake up and we discover that this shareholder value maximization, it was a bad idea. It was an ideology, it was a mantra. It's not really science. A mantra is like something, an illusion, right? And why we have this article? Because we had this declaration, it's called the Statement on the Purpose of the Corporation, which was published exactly the day before, on August 19, 2019. And this is the association, it's called the Business Roundtable, in association of the largest corporation in the US. And the CEO of the corporation are sitting in this association. And I will show you bigger what they say here. They say that what is the purpose of the corporation nowadays? It is to, look, deliver value to customer, investing in employees, dealing fairly and ethically with suppliers, supporting the communities, and generating value for shareholders. And surprise, surprise, this is what Freeman wrote in 1984. This is what at Freeman's stakeholder theory, you will see, and you will listen to Freeman, is basically stakeholder theory. So now, 35 years after the book on stakeholder theory, we see that the business people are getting this. Business people stop talking about shareholder value as the real managerial mantra, ideology. It's not good for company. It's not good for company to focus on shareholder only or on shareholder first. You have to create value, look, customer, employees, suppliers, communities, and shareholders. This is what Freeman called the 5 key stakeholder categories. So these are the first 2 ideas. Business is not just about the money, and managers should not care about the shareholders. And basically, the integration of this criticism is, so what? We need to think about stakeholder. We need to have a vision which is not just profit. And this is one of the other, world thinkers on sustainability that I recommend, to read if you want to read more about sustainability. John Elkington, he's the guy who invented this idea of the triple bottom line. I will show you the 2 ideas later. And he wrote many books. And basically, he says that to become a sustainable company, you have to have a strong ethical vision. And by this, basically, he says something which is very similar to what we just said. You need to move from this vision that business is about money and shareholders, and you need to think about sustainability or triple bottom line or something which is beyond money maximization. And there is some research, empirical research, that actually proves that companies that have a clear vision beyond profit are actually those who are in business successfully for a long time. So in this book, in this research, Built to Last, 2 scholar research, this is old, but they did an update version of the book with the same conclusion. So the company who are there and have a long history, they all have something in common. And among the key characteristics, they have a very clear sense of purpose. They have a mission, which is, a meaning, which is not, of course, to make money. If you think about Disney, for example, they have this mission to entertain families. So it's a mission, it's a purpose, which is then generating profit. It's not, focusing on let's sell more tickets for Disneyland. That's the consequence, is not the mean. And also very interesting, you have analysis of what happened, for example, of Volkswagen, the famous diesel scandal, the company cheating the emission test. There is an analysis here looking at this, focusing on this aspect. If a company focuses too much on profit, maybe a change of a shift of purpose is the source of the problem. And here she says that the CEO of Volkswagen wanted really to move from a reliable family car Volkswagen to, let's become the first car maker in the world. Let's beat Toyota. That became the focus of the company. The purpose of everyone was, let's sell more. And maybe that's why some people came up with this idea of, let's find a way to prove that our car are better in terms of emission. And it was a complete lie. It was a cheating device. And that could be an explanation of what happened inside Volkswagen. They moved to a company that had a clear purpose to a commercial only, if you want, purpose. And that is the source of the problem. Again, we go back to this idea. If you are focused on profit maximization, it's not a good idea for business. It can lead managers to make things that can be good for tomorrow's profit, but can be very bad for the good of the company, for the well-being of the company, including the shareholders. So let's stop for a second. I want to ask if there is any question. Otherwise, I would like to take a break for maybe, let's do a short one, 15 minutes, and then we do another one before the second, the final teamwork, okay? Is any question, clarification at this point?
No. No, sir.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay, guys, so let's take a break and we meet again 7:45, okay? In 15 minutes, okay? See you soon. Sorry, not 2:45, but 5:45, yeah, in 15 minutes.
Okay, see you later, Professor.
You can't hear the lecture because we were in pause, I guess. I hope now you will hear. So we said until 5 minutes to 8. So 2 more minutes, 1 more minute.
Excuse me, Professor.
Yeah.
May I see in your notes that we will have a deadline for the first presentation in next Monday. However, in CPG, we have a final exam for financial accounting in the next Monday. So maybe could you please delay the deadline for the first presentation, because we think it's too much things to prepare for the final exam and the your presentation too.
Well, I put Tuesday as a deadline, you know, but basically we have a class on Wednesday, on the 10th. So the presentation will be on Wednesday, and now we only have class until Thursday. So basically you have from Thursday to next Tuesday to finalize the work that you really start here. So I put the deadline because I need to see the slide, and you know, if there's an issue, and I need to tell you by email, you know, what is the order of class. So the latest is really 24 hours before class. So I put the 9th, not the 8th, the 9th, yeah, the 9th evening. So for you in Vietnam, it's 6 p.m. But you might be ready by Friday, you know, if you work a little bit this Friday or this weekend, you don't need to go to Monday. Yeah. Anyway, you will see. Yeah. We will build a class by class the teamwork. So probably you don't need much extra time after Thursday to finalize the presentation. So let's start again. And before we go to the third flow of the dominant story of business, let me show you the face and the voice of Ed Freeman. So you have a video here from the stakeholder theory theorist, the most important scholar who wrote, again, this book about stakeholder theory in 1984. And since then, he's been talking about this key idea of stakeholder theory. So it's 3 minutes to explain the key idea of stakeholder theory.
Stakeholder theory is an idea about how business really works. It says that for any business to be successful, it has to create value for customers, suppliers, employees, communities, and financiers, shareholders, banks, and others, people with some money. It says that you can't look at any one of those stakes, or stakeholders, if you like, in isolation. Their interest has to go together. And the job of a manager or an entrepreneur is to figure out how the interest of customers, suppliers, communities, employees, and financiers go in the same direction. Now, think about how important each of these groups is for a business to be successful. Think about a business that's lost its edge with its customers, that has products and services that its customers don't want as much, or that they don't want at all. That's a business in decline. Think about a business who manages suppliers in a way that the suppliers don't make them better. The suppliers just take orders and sell stuff, but the suppliers aren't trying to make a business more innovative, more creative. That's a business that's in a holding pattern and probably in decline. Think about a business whose employees don't want to be there every day, who aren't using 100% of their effort and their energy and their creativity to make the business better. That's a business in decline. Think about a business that's not a good citizen in the community, that routinely ignores or violates local custom and law, that doesn't pay attention to the quality of life in the community, doesn't pay attention to issues of corporate responsibility, of sustainability, of its effects on civil society. That's a business that's soon to be regulated into decline. And think about a business that doesn't create a value, doesn't create profits for its financiers, its shareholders, banks, and others. That's a business in decline. So stakeholder theory is the idea that each one of these groups is important to the success of a business, and figuring out where their interests go in the same direction is what the managerial task and the entrepreneurial task is all about. Stakeholder theory says if you just focus on financiers, you miss what makes capitalism tick. What makes capitalism tick is that shareholders and financiers, customers, suppliers, employees, communities can together create something that no one of them can create alone.
Okay, so that's the basic idea of stakeholder theory. And as you can see from the title of the book from '84, it was titled Strategic Management, a Stakeholder Approach. So really the theory is not a philosophical theory, or, you know, it has, of course, ethics inside, but it's not a philosophical theory in the sense that it's not linked to how we manage the business. It's a strategic management approach. And here it's very important, and I put this in the general chat, the image of the stakeholder map, because tonight when you identify your company, the first thing I will ask you to start thinking in your group is to develop your stakeholder map, identify your key stakeholder. And your key stakeholder are these 5 categories: customers, suppliers, communities, employees, and of course the financiers, which include the shareholders. And these are what we call the primary or the normative stakeholders, because for 2 reasons. First of all, if you think about any business, not just the large corporation, but if you think a small coffee shop in Hanoi, what you need to do in order to create a coffee shop? You need to have some money to start. You need to have some customer who will buy your coffee. You need to have some people making the coffee, and you need to have maybe some suppliers to get the good coffee. And you operate in a community. Business always have these 5 key stakeholders. There is no business without these 5 key stakeholders. And some people, some stakeholder theories like Rob Phillips here, define this idea that these are normative stakeholders because they all contribute to the success of the firm, and they all contribute to some way. You know, we give our ideas, we work for the company, or, you know, suppliers can be suppliers of good, but also of ideas, of advice, consultant. We give money, we are investors, we give money by buying the product, and communities give the legitimacy to the company to operate, support the company, or maybe against if you have problems in the local community. So every stakeholder in these 5 categories is doing something or is giving something to the company, and therefore they have a right to receive something back. Not just, you know, money back, but to receive value from the company. You know, I buy your product, I want a product delivering value to me as a customer. It has to be reliable, safe, it has to be good, beautiful, you know, all the things you look in a product when you buy it. The company needs to deliver this value to you as a customer. And a supplier, the same thing. As a community, we want to have a good relation with the company. So what is the job of the manager? If you really understand this stakeholder approach to what is a company, what is a firm, then you see that the job of the manager is to coordinate these stakeholders. You have to attract the best people. You have to, you know, make happy your customers. You need to work in partnership with your suppliers. You need to get the support of the community, and you need to deliver value to the shareholders. But this is all an equilibration process. It's not, I will do anything to maximize shareholder value, because if you do that, you only focus on one stakeholder and you lose the focus from your what really makes your company tick, what really makes your company a successful company. So these are the key 5 categories, but then a stakeholder is defined as any group or individual who can affect or be affected by the company. So there are more than these 5 key stakeholders. There is academia, the university, the research, the media, the government, even the competitor are stakeholder. Of course, they can influence me, we can influence them, but there is not the same level of obligation. The company should not give something to my competitor. We don't have this normative duty to a competitor. They don't want me to succeed. But there are stakeholders. So what we say in stakeholder theory, basically, that we need to take into account. We need to know who our stakeholders are, who can affect us, who we can affect. And when we make decisions, it's better to anticipate what will be the reaction of these other stakeholders, because they can affect us or they can affect our customers. If my competitor has a new product, my customers will maybe find the new products more interesting. So it's a managerial approach. But there is an ethical element there, which is both in the sense of this contribution to the success, so they deserve something back. And also the basic idea is that stakeholders are human beings. And because these are human beings, we need to take care of their interests. There is an ethical motivation as well, not just an instrumental one. And that's very important. So keep this picture in mind, and then you will see this is just a tool, because if you put the name of the company here, and if you put, coffee shop in Vietnam, or you put, I don't know, a bank in Paris, you see that every stakeholder category is just a macro category. Who are my customers? People, maybe student in this neighborhood in Hanoi, or maybe you're in a financial district in Hanoi, your customers are different. And if you're in Paris, you're a bank, maybe it's not just individual, maybe you talk to business, you invest in your customers are institutions. So the real names and faces and organization that can be in your customers is very different. It depends on who you are, what company you are dealing with. So it's very important to use this as a tool to identify your stakeholders. And it's interesting to go back to Milton Friedman and the article of 1970 when he said that you should only maximize shareholder profit. But actually, he was also writing sometimes it's in the interest of the company to devote resources to providing amenities to that community. This is a strong temptation to rationalize this action as an exercise of social responsibility. But these are expenditures that are entirely justified in its own self-interest. It would be hypocritical or window dressing to talk about CSR, approaching fraud. So here you have a very interesting idea. Friedman says sometimes it's good for the company to take care of stakeholders. He talks about the community. But the company is not doing this because they're socially responsible. They're doing it because it's good business. And that's exactly what we say in stakeholder theory. We don't do social responsibility because we are ethical. We do it because that's the core essence of what does it mean to be a business, to be a manager. You need to balance stakeholder interest. So you will see, we will talk more. Is it tomorrow? Yes, the day after tomorrow, we'll talk about CSR models, and we will make this distinction between strategic and response in CSR. And so it's more instrumental and more, if you want, values-based CSR. But here we can rephrase Friedman, and instead of saying that the goal of the corporation is to maximize profit, we can say the goal of the corporation, the purpose of management is to create as much value as possible for stakeholders. That's basically the key learning from stakeholder theory. Shareholder profit is the result of good business. But if you try to maximize profit, it's counterproductive. You focus on one stakeholder and you don't manage the whole network of stakeholders. Okay? Finally, the flaw number 3, people are simple and self-interest. This is what Friedman called the jackass fallacy from a psychologist who say, carrot and stick is what we need to learn in order to motivate people. But carrot and stick don't talk about people, talk about jackass, donkeys. And human beings are more complicated than an animal. We cannot really create a theory of motivation just based on carrot and stick. We are reducing human beings to animals. And here is an experiment I want to play with you, which is from behavioral economics. It's called the ultimatum game. Imagine that I give you $100 to each of you. I've got the money from CFVG. Now I can click and send to your bank account $100. Now you have to make an offer to another person in this virtual classroom. How many dollars from 1 to 100 you want to give to this person? So you want to make an offer, and these are the rules of the game. This person can only accept or reject your offer, and if this person accepts the offer, she or he takes what you give and you keep the rest. But if this person refuses your offer, I take back all the money, the $100, and you both go home with zero. So the point of the game is that everyone in the room knows that I give you $100, and everyone in the room is expecting your offer now. And so they know you get 100, and they are waiting to see how much you offer. And then they will only have to say yes or no. They accept or refuse the offer. Okay? These are the rules of the game. There is no negotiation or second deal. Okay? So what I would like you to do individually, well, first, let me know if there is any question to clarify. And the important aspect is that the information is known. Everyone knows the rule of the game. Even you, that you have the 100 and the person who wants to receive your offer, okay? So you have to enter your number between 1 and 100. How much would you offer? Okay, so if you go with the phone or any tablet, you go to this website, polev.com/sdecolle, you should be able to enter the number, and please just enter the number. Don't put euros, dollars, or any kind of word, just the number. So you can do it now, and so let's say 2 minutes, okay? I see already one person entered your answer. What is your choice? If you like, I hope to go home with some dollars tonight. I give you 100, how much would you offer? What is the right offer? What is the smartest behavior in the room? That's the question. So we can discuss, of course, after. But first of all, we can see. The 11 result. One more minute. 20, 32 now, very good. 33, so let me stop the sharing so I can show you the result. Okay, so please finalize your thinking. I'm about to close in 10 seconds. I only have 40 results, so please use your intuition, and you still have 10 seconds to enter your choice. You don't win anything if you don't enter. You don't risk anything if you enter. But okay. Okay, let me stop. Okay, now I forgot. I see only 40 result because the the tool is limited to 40, so you cannot enter anymore. Sorry. So I have to show you the result, which is, you know, a temporary poll, which is what you're going to see in a second. Voila. So you see the kind of word cloud of the experiment here. So you see 50 was the most chosen offer, but then you have other ideas. You have people offering more, or like 55, 75, 60, 80, of course 100, you want to please the ethics professor, I guess. But then you have also offer below 40, 49, 40, 39, 30, 20, 10, 5, and maybe one person or two, 1. So that's very interesting, you know. So I want to ask someone to say, why do you offer 50? Why? What is your reasoning? I will take a screenshot so I can put this. Or why someone offers 60 or more than 50? Just share what was your reasoning.
Do you hear me?
Yes?
Just put my camera on.
We hear a little low, actually.
You hear me?
Yes, now yes.
Okay. So I offer 55.
Okay.
To show the person that I give a higher part of the $100.
Okay, and why you feel that you have this kind of obligation, or why this is a good idea?
But it's to show
20 or 30.
Can you repeat, please?
Why you think it's better to offer 16 compared to maybe 20 or 30?
Because I think it's more comfortable for me to give more than the half the person. Because I think like this, the person will not refuse my offer because I keep less than his part.
So we could say, you know, this person is smart and maybe a little bit risk adverse. So in order to be safe and you go home with some money, you offer more than half, right? So I see, yeah, I think I don't know if I pronounce very well, but she wrote in the chat, 50 is the fairest number. I guess most people have got this idea. Equal, fairness, yes. So if you think about economics, if you think about rational choice, what is actually the right answer to maximize your money? How much should you offer? If you are really thinking about people are rational, and rationality means that we do what maximize our utility, right? That's what we read in economics. Only I think one person probably, or very few people, answer what the economic book would say is the right answer. The right answer for them is 1. Because who choose 1? Who wants to explain why 1 is the right answer? Or the right offer? Yes.
You can hear me? Yeah,
Yes.
I do. Well, I chose 1, but I was not sure that I understood the game. But when I chose 1, I thought if everybody is putting 1, then we don't risk anything and we are sure that we all have the maximum sum. But I'm not really sure if I get it then.
Okay. Okay. Why don't risk? Because the other person, you think?
Because if the other person is doing 1 too, then we still have the $100, right?
No, but you're thinking more a simultaneous multiple choice. You have to think as, you know, you offer 1 and that's it. You know, you have to, yeah, I should have explained the hypothesis that you have your money, you make your offer, and then the other person only have your offer. And for this person is either 1 or 0. and there's no other game. It's many games in parallel, but basically you're only dealing with your own game. So your game is you have 100, but the reasoning maybe someone else did, it was, if I offer 1, the person receives 1, and the person has the choice, accept or refuse. And if this person is rational, if she or he accepts, it's €1. If you refuse, it's 0. So €1 is more than 0, right? This is what we all should agree. So rational choice, this person will accept. If the other person is rational, they will accept €1 because 1 is more than 0. So what would you say? How many of you would accept €1 knowing that the person offering has 100? Would you accept €1? I should make a poll, but that's too, maybe we should, it's complicated, but you can raise your hand if you would accept €1. Let me see. How many people would accept 1? Let me see if I can see. No, I can only see 9 people, so we don't know. Yeah, but I guess if you didn't offer €1, it's because most of you would not accept €1. And why people don't accept €1? Because they say it's not fair, right? As you wrote, this person is selfish, offering 1, having 100. And that's exactly what we were saying from the beginning. People are complicated, and people care more than just money. Like companies should care more just than profit. This is a very powerful result. And this is a result that allowed a behavioral economist, Richard Thaler, to win a Nobel Prize by showing through experiment that the idea that rationality means, I always choose what is good for me, is not really explaining human behavior. We cannot reduce human behavior to the absence of consideration of fairness. People care about being treated fairly. And most people like you would not offer €1 because it's not fair. And most people would tend to offer 50 like you, normal people. And so it's a very powerful result. That's why he won a Nobel Prize, because economic theory doesn't consider fairness. And what is fairness? Ethics is a value that we teach in ethics. So it's not very important to recognize that we have an economic theory that completely ignores consideration of ethics, fairness, and this is it should be a theory that predicts human behavior. But if you offer 1, you go home with 0 most likely. And again, offering 1 is like counterproductive maximization of shareholder value. If you try to maximize profit, you offer 1 because you think I go home with 99, and most likely you go home with 0. Maximize profit is counterproductive. Finally, one very important element here, who choose 1? Who choose less than 50-50? Mostly people working in business, in commerce. These are students doing the experiment with $10, and you see that student of psychology offer 4.76 on average, and student of business 4.2. If you study business, if you study economics, if you study this economic theory that people are self-interested and opportunistic, you enact what you think, you enact what you study, and you are more selfish than normal people or people who don't study business. That's also very important. That's why Freeman says we need to change the dominant story of business. If we have a story that people are greed, self-interest, and the homo economicus is all about money, we behave like this. And that's a problem for business today, and it's a problem for economic theory. And again, it's not just a theory that we know from stakeholders theory or from this behavioral economic experiment, is what economists have already written long time ago as well. In the 80s, Sen was writing about ethics and economics, and he was saying again that it's incredible to see how economic theory has become a science of numbers, like the physics of money, and there's nothing about ethics. But how can we predict human behavior if we don't pay attention to ethical considerations that shape human behavior and judgment? You just proved this point. It's important to think that people care more than just money. I will skip this because it's just an example of a company who follows this idea, and there is a network of companies who created this initiative, Conscious Capitalism, to share this idea. You know, they care to maximize stakeholder value, not just shareholder value. So let's start talking about really CSR and sustainability, and as I said, we will do a final short break before the teamwork. But I want to introduce a few ideas here, because we are in this phase of thinking about concept and trying to eliminate some misunderstanding, as you see. First of all, about business. So what is business? What is a company? We already discussed. What is CSR? What is sustainability? And here I want to show you some definition. As you can see, there are many books, many initiatives, many CSR center, research group, or even business network. And there are many movies talking about the CSR of companies, right? But we have also a lot of literature talking about different aspects of CSR or different definition of CSR. So basically, there is no unique definition of CSR, but what I want to offer you is these four elements that for me are four important aspects of CSR. So I think it's this point out four aspects that we should all agree and keep in mind when we talk about CSR. So the first aspect is CSR is about answering voluntary. There is no, it's not really compliance with law, but it's to answer expectation in society. And that's why we will see it's important to think in the stakeholder approach. Economic, social, legal, ethical expectation that society has towards the company. So that's the idea of responding, answering expectation. The second aspect is this is clearly something that goes beyond what is prescribed by law. And that's, when we think about ethics, we always say ethics is more than respecting the law. It's about, what do we do with new challenges, with new technologies, with new problems. There is nothing which is already there, but we need to face new issues. Now in the COVID world, we had a number of issues in the world that were not prescribed by any law, and companies need to adapt. We always need to adapt. Again, we need to respond, and there is no legislation that is specifically telling us what to do. The third aspect is that CSR is a way to manage and satisfy stakeholders. So manage, because that's the job of the manager, and satisfy, because we need to respond to their expectation. And finally, this idea that we have here from CSR Europe is the idea that at the end is about innovating, is about changing the way we do business, the way we create value. So it's really to integrate CSR in the way we manage the business. We will see on Wednesday, it's not really about philanthropic initiative. Philanthropic initiatives don't change the way we manage the business. It's just writing a check. CSR should really helping us to change, which means to innovate our business model, or to do things differently. So that's about CSR, and of course we could spend many times to talk about CSR, because it's a concept that's been there for decades. Sustainability is more precise, if you want, as a concept, because there is a definition, at least, that everyone agrees in terms of sustainable development, and it's this definition that goes back to the end of the 80s, to this commission created to talk about our duties to the future, basically. And we have this idea of sustainability means to meet our needs without compromising the needs of the future generation. This has a very strong environmental focus, but I want that you apply and we apply, when we talk about CSR and sustainability together, this kind of triple bottom line idea. So it's not just environmental, of course, sustainability, it's about social, economic, and environmental at the same time. And that's the big contribution by John Elkington, who invented this idea of triple bottom line to help business to broaden the scope of the management, which is, the bottom line is money, the economic. No, there's also environmental and social impacts that you create, good and bad. And so you cannot manage a company without considering this broad performance measurement, not just economic, but social and environmental as well. Now, he invented this idea 25 years ago, and that's what he says in an article 3 years ago, so now it's more than 25. And what he was saying at this point was, I want to recall the term, because what he's saying, basically, the term did not deliver what it was supposed to deliver. And so it's a self-criticism, if you want, on the way this idea of triple bottom line has been translated into practice by companies and, by accountants and reporting consultants. You see, this concept has been captured and diluted. So we have a business of sustainability, we have a business of CSR, and at the end, we have many companies producing CSR reports, sustainability report, engaging in CSR policies, activities, but we don't see real change, and we don't see radical change. We don't see systemic change, or we don't see business model innovation. I mean, sometimes, but not on a global scale. And so basically, what the criticism here is that triple bottom line has become a way for companies to produce more report, papers, statistic indicators, and without changing the paradigm, without changing their system, their business model. And this is not what the idea. The idea was not to create a new accounting tool. So when you read the reports of your company, ask yourself, is the company just telling us good stories, producing information, measurements, or is the company trying to change the way they manage their product, their customer relationship, their impact on the environment, the working condition, the human rights, I mean, social, environmental, and economic. That's the key question. Is the company changing? That was the idea. If it's just reporting, it's not useful. And so keep this in mind. Keep in mind that we talk about social and ethical dimension, not just environmental, and they are very important social issue. For example, the inequality. The inequality means that we have seen in the last decades the top 100% of the population becoming more and more rich, and we have seen at the same time the level of pay of CEOs increase, and so the inequality inside corporation has been increasing as well. So this is not sustainable. That's basically the idea of sustainability. It has to talk about this social, economic, environmental issue, all things considered. And in this research, which is a good one about sustainability leaders, to talk about companies and also NGOs and government who are more sustainable, you can see here, and is a survey among experts, what are the key elements of sustainability in this time. And they say climate, so of course, climate is a big issue, and biodiversity and water, but also poverty in the top, the big challenge of the decade. So social issue as well as environmental. You will find companies that report, because nowadays you see every company has a sustainability report, or even they stop having a separate report for sustainable or CSR. Some companies have what they call an integrated reporting, which is covering both economic, financial, and sustainability. So you will have to navigate through the website of company and see what kind of information your company is, how they call their report, because as you can see, 96% of the large corporation, basically, they do have a report. But here is something that I want you to also pay attention to. This is a slide I prepared when I was working in KPMG, so it's probably 21 years old, but it's very important for me because this gives you the idea of what this purple area here is very important, because when we talk about indicators, sustainability indicators, and we talk about economic, environmental, and social, we can have, again, label indicators that are same for every company. So you see here example of economic indicator. You can talk about profit or maybe how many jobs you create. These are economic indicators. Environmental, emission, water, waste, typical. And social indicators, human rights, lobbying, for example, supply chain issue, etc. But these are generic. And here, look at the purple. You have access to healthcare. You have relation with patient association, you have use of human cell and tissue in drug discovery. You see, these are social, economic, and environmental issue for a particular company, for a company that we did as a KPMG consultant who was a pharmaceutical company. And that's the kind of exercise you need to do. And actually, this is the kind of exercise every company should do. It's easy to say, how many water we save, how many women, men, employees we have, this generic issue. But if we are a pharmaceutical company, what are the key issues for us? And we will discuss this when we talk about materiality on Thursday, actually. So you have to identify the issue that are more important for your company. And so if you are a pharmaceutical company, think about the vaccine, right? The pharmaceutical company producing the vaccine have very specific sustainability challenges in terms of access to healthcare. If the vaccines cost too much, how can people buy? And or government, how can some government don't have the means? And what are the ethical implications of research, informed consent, use of my genes to develop a new drug, for example? These are specific issues, industry specific, and this is very important when we talk about sustainability. It's really what we call materiality. It's a process that you need to check for your company. Okay, now I want you to do another brainstorming in your group. Actually, no, sorry. Let's do this with the poll everywhere. Otherwise, we lose time. So, what I would like you. No. Okay, sorry. I keep changing my mind. So you do first a brainstorm in your group. You talk about company who are good and bad, okay, and then you write it on the poll. So I will open first for good, okay? So discuss in your group which company is particularly good for ethics, CSR, sustainability practice today. Just use what you know as a student, as a consumer, as a person working in some industries. It's not, I'm not asking now to do any internet research. Now I want you just to use your personal information, and please write. So discuss in your group 3 companies who are really good and then really bad, and write 3 names on the poll. So I will activate the poll. So basically you go to the same website. Let me activate. And let's say we go, okay, 36, we go until, let's stay in 14 minutes. So we go 10 to 9, yeah. 10 to 9, but first the good and then the bad, otherwise, because I have to activate the slide. So I will tell you when to enter the bad. First, just the good ones, okay? So try to see whether in your group you can agree on 3 names of companies who are good in terms of their sustainability, CSR performance, okay? So let me activate. Okay, so now if you go to the same website, now you can enter the good name. But first, discuss in your group, because otherwise we have 300 names. So only 3 names per group, okay? So see whether you can first agree in your group. So please go back to your group, and then in maybe 5 minutes, I will send a message. You talk about the bad one. So now you can enter only the good one, okay? Thanks. Voilà, I put the link. Okay, I have enough companies, but let's say 10 seconds. If you want to enter another one, just do it now. And I'm gonna close in 10 seconds. 9, 8. Okay. Don't mistake. Just the name. Huh? Okay. If you write Vietnam company working in textile, it's gonna destroy the word cloud. So just enter the name of the company. Okay. I'm closing the good ones. So please wait for the moment. Locking the thing. Now I will go to the bad ones. So don't worry if you still have ideas. You can of course discuss in your group. But now, if you refresh, now you have to enter the bad ones. So please, in the next 3 minutes, all the ideas that you have in your group about the bad ones, you will see the red. This time the slide is red. So just enter the name of the company. So we will see the name, the word cloud. Okay. Thank you so much. Refresh, and now you can enter the bad ones. So 3 minutes, please. So what I will do, I will show you. So you probably hear the noise of the drill of my neighbor. Sorry about that. I don't know if you hear, but there's some work going on. I'm sorry. Hope you can still hear me. And I'm looking at the screen. We have interesting numbers coming, names. And okay. Very good. 1 more minute. I think you have a lot of good ideas here. Oh, my cam is working, yeah. Okay, 10 seconds. The bad ones. And then I will show you the winners of the 2 categories. Okay, I'm closing the poll in 3 seconds. Okay. Voila, close, locked. Okay, let me show you. It's going to be interesting. So now we have first the bad ones. Share. Share PowerPoint. Why doesn't it show? Here, okay. Okay. Now you see the bad ones. Very interesting. So Amazon, Facebook, I think they're the winners. You have Nestlé, Total, Apple, Tesla, Zara, Google, Walmart, Patagonia. So some are Volkswagen, Enron, Netflix, okay, Uber, and then maybe some Vietnamese. I saw, yes, FPT. I remember FPT. Okay, so these are the bad ones, and look at the good ones. Let's see if it works. And in the good ones, we have, interestingly, we have Facebook and FPT as well, which is something very interesting to notice, that for some people a company is very good and for some people it's very bad, which is something that we will learn. Apple probably is the same. Tesla is probably the same in both categories. Google maybe as well. So that's something very interesting, and that's what Friedman calls the saint and sinner approach. It's not really working. There is no perfectly good or perfectly bad company. There are companies who are doing good in some issue, as we will say, sustainability issue, but at the same time are doing bad in other issue. There are some exceptions, some company that maybe everyone thinks is a very good company. Of course, if you talk to French people and you say Danone, L'Oreal, these are the good guys. Or if you talk maybe to Patagonia and other companies, they are very good company for everyone. IKEA, interesting, is a good one, but for someone it's not such a good one. So that's an initial, I think, brainstorming, also to put companies on the screen. Unilever is another one which is always considered to be good, the Body Shop as well. But the point is really to go beyond the surface or beyond the reputation. Some companies have a very good reputation. Volkswagen had a very good reputation before the scandal, okay? So thank you for this. I will, of course, include this slide in your this result in the slide. But before we go to the final part of today, which is really to choose the company, briefly, because I'm sure you really know this stuff, but I want to present the slide that I have prepared for you in terms of why it's important. We will discuss more tomorrow in terms of a framework to discuss why it's important for companies. But so here, I want you to think about two aspects of this question. As you can see, why it's important, ethics, CSR, sustainability in business. Sorry, there are two ways to answer this question. And the first way to answer this question is obvious and every manager knows. The second way is not so obvious, so I will focus more on the second way. What is the first way? Ethics or CSR or sustainability. It's important because, are you seeing my slide? Because I have a weird message. Do you see the slide with the?
Yes, we can see.
With Siemens, right? Yeah, thank you. So this, I have some slide all about scandal, corruption. This is a Siemens and a price, 1.6 billion fine for Siemens for corruption. These were GlaxoSmithKline 2012 scandal for over prescribing antidepressant to children, $3 billion fine. Volkswagen, of course, clean diesel. Look, this was the advertising. It was not clean diesel. It was a cheating device, and they had to pay, for example, 10 billions back to the customers just in US to give back to the customers. The car, market value. I mean, the price is not finished and how much it cost to Volkswagen. But again, and the financial crisis, we had a lot of banks they got fined for mis-selling junk fund, basically. We know this story. So, and also Facebook, which for you, some of you is a very good ethical company, they had to pay 4.5 billion fine for the scandal of Cambridge Analytica and the breach of privacy data, the company using Facebook user data to target and to try to send information about the US election. So this is what we know. If you don't behave ethically, irresponsibly, you might do very bad things to your business, lose reputation, even do something illegal, go to jail, get fined. Is not good for business. But that's only the one side of the question, which means company will only do it as a risk management thing. Just be ethical or sustainable or responsible to the extent that it's not too risky or it's not becoming legal or against the law or the standards that we need to comply with. That cannot be the solution. That cannot be our answer. For us to be responsible is also a positive thing. to be ethical, to be responsible, to integrate sustainability management is something which is helping the company to create value. It's not just avoiding disaster. That's the most important answer. And again, most managers don't get it, most companies don't get it because they see business in the other way. They see business on the other way around. Yes, I see a message, you cannot type in Poland. Yes, it's closed. Yeah, it's finished. Okay, so don't worry. We'll now focus on, you will discuss this in your group. So how I prove you that this is important for business, I show you what is an interesting case. I think it's the self-driving cars. So there is a short video here I want to show you.
Self-driving cars are already here. Widespread adoption of this technology will lead to less traffic, less pollution, and fewer car accidents. These cars bring to life a long-standing hypothetical dilemma. How moral should we make our robots? What if an autonomous vehicle is faced with a choice to either kill its passenger or kill others? How should it be programmed?
Okay, so they did the interview online, and imagine you are sitting on a car and the car is like self-driving you, and there are 5 people crossing the street. So the computer, of course, see the people, the webcam, the software, decide to brake. Imagine that there is a mechanical failure. It can always happen, of course. The brake doesn't work. What is now the computer? What should be the choice of the computer, of the software? Kill 5 people or kill the driver? Imagine you are, driving on a bridge. You can just, pull and go out from the bridge and you kill just the driver. 1 or 5. What should a self-driving car do? That's the kind of ethical dilemma that was being asked in a website of the MIT, very serious research. Well, most people in society say you should save 5 and sacrifice 1. It's a very simple ethical principle of utilitarianism. If 1 death, 5 death is a simple rule of minimize the worst solution. But who would act at the time?
Excuse me.
Yes. Yes.
We cannot see the slide and video, sir.
Okay, so let me reshare everything. Sorry, guys. Let me see. Share. Do you see now the picture of the moral machine?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see it now.
Yes, okay. Thank you for letting me know. So it was a short video. You will see the linkage to the video. The video was really telling you how we should design a self-driving car. And the point that I will make here and why I use this video is that this is not a hypothetical discussion. This is what's going on in business, and particularly in Mercedes. You see, the head of Mercedes Active Safety already decided what to do. They say, if we have the option, we will always save the one in the car, the Mercedes client, which was a public announcement. There was a LinkedIn discussion about this, and I was, interacting with even some colleague. And so some people wrote, in the future, if you sit in a self-driving Mercedes, you're very safe. But if you cross the street and you see a Mercedes arriving, be careful. You never know. The car could be designed to kill you, because this could be the choice of the software. And that's the point. That's a very interesting issue, and it's very complicated, and it's not solved, of course, at the moment. But the point that I'm making here is that business decisions involve ethics. And that's why, if we are responsible, ethical, if we think about sustainability, we actually can design better product, we can be more responsible, we can make better decisions. This decision always involves ethics. The idea that ethics doesn't matter is just a mistake. And already we have a case of a Uber self-driving car who killed someone, by the way. There are many cases also for Tesla is interesting. So we came to the end of this very long discussion. So if you go back to the reading, which is, this new story of business, you will see that what all I said is basically explained there. And I wanted to give you this broad approach about, before really going to sustainability report. You will become very much expert in reading, analyzing sustainability report. But I think it's important to start with this idea of what is a corporation, what is the purpose of business. And so stakeholder theory gives you this perspective that, you know, we should not have a narrow view of human being, like only just €1 is better than 0, and that's a reduction of human being to very simple animals, but we are more than this, and we care about fairness. And at the same time, corporations are complicated and complex institutions, and their purpose is not to make profit. Their purpose is to create value for stakeholders, and at the end, they make profit if they're managed in a good way. To profit is the result of good business, is not the purpose. So if you keep this idea in mind, I think you have a better lens, a better conceptual lens to look at what companies are doing and what they say they are doing in terms of CSR and sustainability. So we will discuss more in the next days about really ideas and concept of stakeholder, sorry, of social responsibility and sustainability. But I think that these initial ideas are very important for you to approach really the analysis that I want you to do. So we have companies. So now you were identifying some top and worst, so the best and the worst in class in terms of CSR and sustainability. So I would like you to go to your group now and start thinking at companies that you want to adopt as an analysis, as a case study that you want to do in your group. So it can be a good one, it can be a bad one. What I would like to avoid is the extreme, and some company that we will analyze in the course. Some company will use like a case study. So, for example, Unilever cannot be taken by any group, and also for my French friend, I'm sorry, but L'Oréal and Danone, niet. They're not available because we know everything about this company already if you work in a business school in France. And so I think it would be more interesting to find an international company or Vietnamese company. So it's both like have an international view, but also a Vietnamese-based view, because of course it's interesting to hear as well the point of view of people who live in the country. And the only requisite, the only requirement is that they have an English report, the English documentation, so that we can all read the documents, right? So that's the only requirement. So it has to be, it doesn't necessarily have to be a large multinational. It can be a small company, but we need a website in English, some document in English that we can read, okay? And again, if you choose a very, very good company, a large multinational, you might have to read too much. I mean, it's easy because they talk about sustainability in every page of the website, in every page of the report. Then you have more information to read, and it will be more difficult for you to select and to criticize. So, but they will do everything. So the information will be there, but maybe just too much to process if you take a company in the top categories. Of course, we don't want to deal with Volkswagen or company who just been involved in a huge scandal, in a huge problem, also because that's the issue, and so it's clear. The problem is not clear. It's interesting to take a company which is a normal company, and they will have some challenges. They will already do something very good, okay? So please use your own experience and knowledge. And of course, you can also propose the company that anyone in the group is working for, in order to maybe provide an inside view. You can also be interviewed by the other people in the group. So we do have 45 minutes, okay? So I would like to open the groups and basically think about companies, and if you can select 2 or 3 companies by the end of the, I will go group by group, I will interact with you in the chat, and I have to approve. So by the end of today and before tomorrow, I will have to look at all the proposal and hopefully, make everyone happy. Of course, I want you to choose a company that you are interested in, but I want to keep a balance between different sectors and make it meaningful, so that if there's only one group who wants to do financial services, it will not be very interesting for the other groups. So let's try to focus on a few industrial sectors. Okay, so I invite you to go to your group and chat and discuss. And then when you write in your group, you can even, write to me if you have a question, and I can say yes, no, I can invite you. So basically, we go in groups and we stay in groups until the end of today, and we chat in the groups, and I will upload the slide afterwards, and we meet again tomorrow in the plenary, basically at 6:30. Is there any question?
No.
Okay, so talk in your group, and specific question I will answer in your group, okay? I only have one issue with group 14 that doesn't show in my, so try to write me from group 14, please, because I don't see you in my list of group for some reason. I might have deleted by mistake, but I don't know. So please contact me somehow, okay? Okay, guys, thank you very much for today's, and we will interact in the group from now on. And I see you here tomorrow.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor.